South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, once considered a top potential running mate for Donald Trump, is now defending herself after revealing in a new book why she shot and killed her 14-month-old dog Cricket. Noem says she's not retracting anything after facing backlash from both Democrats and Republicans. Today, she was also asked about her suggestion in the book that President Biden's bite-prone German Shepherd commander should meet the same fate as Cricket.
The reason that this story is in the book because people need to understand who I am and some of those difficult decisions. Joe Biden's dog has attacked 24 Secret Service people. So how many people is enough people to be attacked and dangerously hurt before you make a decision on a dog?
Joining me now is former Republican Congressman and 2020 presidential candidate Joe Walsh. Joe, good to have you here. Is this a case study in what not to do if you want to be considered for vice president?
Jessica, good to be with you. Actually, it may be, but I also think it's a case study in where my former political party is. Look, I served with Kristi Noem. She wasn't this way 8, 9, 10 years ago. Every one of my former Republican colleagues, Jessica, has learned to be like Trump, to be cruel, to lie, to never, ever apologize, to never back down. She's trying to be like Trump. If I shoot my dog, if I say that Biden's dog should be shot, that's a really tough, cruel thing to say. And that's what Trump says. And that's what the Republican voters want to hear. They've all, sadly, all of my former colleagues, Jessica, have learned from Trump. They've all learned to imitate Trump because Trump's gotten away with it all these years.
This is just such an extreme version of that, to talk about shooting animals and think that gets you a stamp of approval.
You're exactly right. I think this is, look, she went a step too far. This was Kristi Noem thinking, I'm going to thump my chest and I'm going to come across as a badass, cruel person who shoots my dog and never backs down and never apologizes for it. She went too far because even most Republicans don't like and find repulsive the notion of shooting your dog. I think she went too far for Trump. But again, the lesson for every American listening to us right now is this. Cruelty does sell in the Republican Party. Kristi Noem might have gone a little bit too far, but the base loves cruelty and they love dishonesty, and that's what Trump feeds them.
And she was also pressed about another bizarre passage in her book in which she falsely claims that she met the North Korean leader while she was in Congress. And she wrote, "I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. I had been a children's pastor after all." And here she is talking more about it this morning.
Did you meet Kim Jong-un?
Well, you know, as soon as this was brought to my attention, I certainly made some changes and looked at this passage. And I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world.
So you did not meet with Kim Jong-un. That's what you're saying.
No, I've met with many, many world leaders. Many world leaders. I've traveled around the world.
She just can't answer the question.
Jessica, how pathetic. She couldn't say no. She was asked twice, did you meet with him? And she couldn't say no. Again, this makes me really sad because this is evidence that all of my former colleagues have learned two very bad things from Trump. To lie, she lied. And Republicans have learned to lie like Trump because, again, Trump gets away with it. But then, Jessica, when you're caught in a lie, never, ever, ever admit or acknowledge you lied. Never be ashamed about lying. I mean, that's what she's trying to do there. She's following Trump's playbook. It's really sad.
And so what happens, because we do see people contorting themselves also on the issue of will you accept the election results in 2024? That's another one that's been very hard for some of these contenders for Trump's to be his vice president. And yet Mike Pence did everything he possibly could to do it right and then just wouldn't try to overturn an election or not certify an election, and a mob was coming for him. Why do you think these candidates, these potential candidates and elected officials want to do this?
Tim Scott, Jessica, my former colleague, was asked 6 times today if he'd accept the results of the 2024 election. 6 times he was asked, and he wouldn't say it. Look, this is not, shooting your puppy. This is big stuff. Make no mistake, Donald Trump is attacking our democracy. He's doing now, again, what he did in 2020, refusing to say he'll accept the results of an election if he loses. That is a direct, traitorous attack on our democracy. But Jessica, Tim Scott and all of the others are doing the same thing. My God, this is so scary, and this is so wrong. And the country really needs to wake up to it because, as you said, it's not just Trump now, it's the whole party.
All right, Joe Walsh for us. Thanks so much for joining us.